Well, voters in New Hampshire turned up the anti-establishment tone of the presidential race. Billionaire Donald Trump and socialist Bernie Sanders easily beat political insiders in the Republican and Democratic primaries. Trump got 35% of the Republican vote. Ohio Governor John Kasich, who staked his campaign in New Hampshire, and more moderate voters there, finished a distant second place with 16%. The winner in Iowa, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, a respectable, perhaps surprising third. Not bad, considering he didn't put a lot of effort into there. Then Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio virtually tied after the Rubio meltdown in the last week. On the Democratic side, as expected, U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders of neighboring Vermont easily beat Hillary Clinton. He won 60% of the vote. Both winners promising New Hampshire voters to rock the political boat.
Given the enormous crises facing our country, it is just too late for the same old establishment politics and establishment economics. The people want real change.
We're repealing and replacing Obamacare. It's gone. We're getting rid of Common Core. We're going to educate our children locally. We educate our children locally. We are going to preserve our very sacred Second Amendment.
No surprises at the top. Both Trump and Sanders were the odds-on favorites. Good morning to Jeff Engel, director of the Center for Presidential History at SMU. Donald Trump's almost sounding like a mainstream conservative Republican there instead of an outsider.
He really is. He's managed to get the one responsibility that people really want, the one characteristic people really want, which is trust. Now, voters in their exit polls said that they trust Trump to do what he says. There's an interesting difference on the Democratic side. Voters who are asked which candidate you trust more, 91% of them voted for Sanders over Clinton.
These were people who did vote. They did commit to somebody, and those New Hampshire voters are very careful about the choice. They're very educated voters. They work very hard at deciding which candidate they're going to pick.
They've spent a lot of time up there, all the candidates, and they spent a lot of money up there. And so essentially you can say it's almost $15,000 per vote at this point. It's really a remarkable number.
Let's start to dissect the rest of the field, because we said the two winners, really not a shocker at all. As we move down the field, so John Kasich came in second. He needed to, or it's over. Who's next? Who's it over for now? Chris Christie, apparently.
So Chris Christie has returned to New Jersey. He's suggesting that the campaign's probably over there. What's going to be really fascinating over the next few weeks is that the demographics are really going to start to become far more important here, because neither Iowa or New Hampshire really look like the rest of the country. As the election moves south into South Carolina and into Super Tuesday on March 1st, we're going to see more African Americans, more Latinos, a more diverse populace, which favors both Clinton and also, ironically, that demographic doesn't favor Trump at all. And the religious aspect of the South doesn't favor Trump at all. So I think we're in for a long haul on the Republican side in particular.
Right. So what Hillary Clinton trying to solidify, she's going to bring Bill out. Bill, who was jokingly called America's first black president, loved by African-American voters in the South, speaks their language, is perfectly comfortable stepping up into the pulpit and doing things that she is not comfortable doing. She has a huge gap with voters who just don't like and don't trust her.
That's really the problem. So what's fascinating about the way that they're going to appeal to minority voters on the Democratic side is that there really aren't any issues that minority voters dislike Sanders for. As you point out, this is really a legacy vote for years and years, decades even, of responsible leadership by the Clintons, by Bill, and by extension by Hillary. So they're really voting the old style, if you will. But Hillary is really in trouble when you look at voters who are not over 65 and who are not minorities. She is losing all those demographics across the board.
And the question is, does Donald Trump, brash New York billionaire, sell in places like South Carolina, like Nevada, sweeping then through the South on Super Tuesday?
He's going to do very, very well in the lower South. I think he'll do very, very, very well in Mississippi and Alabama. But South Carolina has a history of being perhaps the ugliest state for political scandal during elections, for political dirty fighting, if you will. So this is a place that in 2004, in 2008, in 2012, each time we've seen candidates essentially throwing ugly mud at each other. This could be fascinating.
You have, but Donald Trump has some of the South Carolina political establishment on his side as well.
Well, he does, but Jeb Bush has managed to bring in all of the Lindsey Graham supporters.
Right.
So Lindsey Graham, of course, the longtime senator for South Carolina, he has a well-established record there. So actually, Jeb Bush is probably looking better at this point for South Carolina than any other candidate.
Who'd have thunk?
You know, I think his campaign's not over yet.
Yeah, we'll see. Thank you very much. Always good to see you.
Good to see you.